So, about a year ago, a website launched called IronAge.media. Maybe you've heard of it based on who I believe is subscribed to me right now. It's kind of a clearinghouse article platform for indie creators. And about a year ago, I wrote a editorial think piece type article for them. And they've had it. And you'll understand when you hear this article why I'm making a video about it approximately 1 year later. The subject is how long does it take to go from an idea of a story to it actually being in customer hands. And it's not just, I didn't take the lazy approach to it where it's just like, oh, well, you can crap out a story with ChatGPT 3 in an afternoon, then you upload it, click, with a basic cover, and you submit it to a print-on-demand service like KDP, and voila, it ships into their hands in 2 weeks. That's technically the answer. That's really not an interesting answer. I try to actually break down the steps it takes to go from, hey, this is a great idea for a story, to it actually being a good idea for a story, well executed. So, I think the culture war is in its death throes, not because either side won it. I think what is plain to see about mass entertainment in the current year is a Pyrrhic victory at best, salted earth at worst. It seems that every cultural achievement of the West in the last 3,000 years is being tarnished, insulted, degraded, and destroyed. Hollywood isn't producing movies people want to go see, not like they used to. People aren't rallying around TV series. In my experience, apathy has taken root, along with an expectation of disappointment. People see it as safer to look to the past to catch up on things they missed, rather than to look forward to something new. One notable exception is the meteoric rise in popularity of anime and Korean film. As an anecdote, when line cooks at nightclubs are having debates about One Piece, you know the tides have changed. Looking to foreign countries for culture is not a long-term solution, however. The craving for novelty mixed with a burgeoning urge to create is at the heart of the Iron Age movement, and maybe one day I'll actually upload a video about what I think the Iron Age is de facto, what it should be, how I think it needs to change, etc. But that's another video. I wholeheartedly believe that soon enough there will be enough new content that the markets will be flooded. Arguably, they already are. While the culture war seems to have disgraced everything that came before, the original material is still out there, as well as the lessons and craft they have to offer. New stories, movies, comics, and games all have the potential to surpass anything created to date. But when is soon enough? Hi, my name is James Craig, and I'm an independent author. I'm very excited for the Iron Age. I was new to the movement at that time. I'm reading verbatim, okay? But I want to share my thoughts on what people should be expecting from the speed of the movement and why. Hopefully this will also encourage some people to dive in by giving a taste of the process. By December 5th, I will have released 3 novels this year, which is a lot to produce, but not a lot to read. According to Goodreads, I have finished 52 novels this year alone, and that's not touching comics, anime, and movies I've consumed. Looking at just the novels, there would have to be 19 more of me to occupy a reader of my voraciousness, and that would give no variety whatsoever aside from dipping into older releases. Given taste and genre, I think the number can be rounded off and simply declare that a lot more authors are needed. Not to say there aren't already a lot of independent authors out there trying to make a go of it. So, I've released 3 novels in 1 year, along with quite a bit of web novel content. How did I get to that rate? Let's say you want to release a book, because you want to be the change you want to see in the world. Good on you. Let's call this decision month 0, day 0. First, you have to write the book. In my experience, most amateur writers are lucky to write 500 words a day. Someone taking it really seriously can probably average 1,000 words a day. A real tryhard strives for 2,000, and insane people sometimes reach 5,000 a day. Personally, I average 2,000 a day. Wish I was still doing that. So I'll use that as optimistic numbers. Now, the rough draft of a book is going to be between 60,000 words and 120,000 words, depending on the scope of the story. Therefore, it will take 1 to 2 months to write the first draft. Given the likelihood of interruptions, rewrites, and underperformance, I'll fudge that all together and call it 2 months from day 0. You have your first draft. Congratulations, you are now in the top quartile of all people who call themselves writers. Now comes editing, but editing without perspective is often fruitless. I recommend taking a break and working on another project for a while, because your first book will not manifest your potential at all. Any aspiring author should be planning multiple books, not a series necessarily. So after I finish a rough draft, I write a different novel's rough draft. This meshes the development pipelines together to reduce the total time eventually. It does, however, mean that editing book 1 only begins in month 4. So you begin to edit. You spent the last 4 months reading, studying, thinking, practicing with the other drafts, so you should be much better at the craft now. Make any known changes, then reread the book to check for structural changes, then read the book aloud to check for flow, and make your fixes to generate draft 2. As long as you don't throw it in the trash and start from a blank page, this will probably take you 1 more month. Welcome to month 5. You are now ready to show it to people. Hopefully you didn't show your rough draft to anyone because you would have convinced your potential readers that you're not worth their time. They will have compared your rough draft to a finished product and written you off. Now that you have a good story that is free of most typos and errors, reach out to your social groups and see who is interested in reading the first chapter, and then see who wants to continue on for the rest of the book. Personally, I recommend an online platform like Google Docs or Atticus, which allows live inline commenting, so the reader can pinpoint bad scenes, clunky wording, ass pulls, and rant about how much they hate or love your characters. It's far more useful than an essay at the end. But readers are slow if you aren't paying them. And you can pay people to do this. If you're lucky, you'll get the feedback in a month. Which brings us to month 6. You can now begin assimilating all the comments and feedback and making corrections and throw it into Grammarly or whatever other online editor you fancy. You can even hire an underpaid college student to copy edit your manuscript. At some point, you had to pull the trigger on getting cover art. Once your final edits are done, learn how to format, choose your distribution model, and you can upload it to Amazon, or worse, you can start emailing agents and get rejections for the next 3 years. At the start of month 7, you upload all your files and formatting and cover art and so on. The files get validated, publishing expenses are paid, and you order a proof copy. 2 weeks later, you get your proof copy, pray that you don't find mistakes, and then you enable distribution for your book. Now, you have a publication date, and you can really begin drumming up hype and pre-orders and review copies. You'll want to buy a stack of books for marketing purposes so you can mail them to influencers after talking with them. Do all the groundwork you can now that people have a link to an actual product. At this point, you have reached the top 1% of people who call themselves writers and are an author. But you have no sales until it goes live. Once your pre-orders process, you'll get some sales. If you get 12 sales, you're in the top 50% of authors, so the top 0.5% of writers. Congrats. Because you spent the time to market and check your proof copy and plan a launch, that took time. That means this release date that marks you stepping foot into the publishing world is probably 9 to 10 months after your decision to start. Now, because the development process was interlaced, Book 2 will be ready to release in 2 to 3 more months, and that time gap can be repeated, but it still took 10 months to start. And that's assuming your first manuscript was good. Brandon Sanderson famously wrote 10 novels before selling one. That is very reasonably 3 months of work on a project that simply is not good enough to put on the market because you had to develop your skills. That can be as much as 30 months of work without external reward. And that's okay. That's normal. But that is why things will take a while. Skill and quality don't come free, and writing is just a skill like drawing, painting, playing music, and public speaking. All the good intentions and inspiration in the world won't change the fact that it essentially takes a year to release a book without skipping steps I listed above. Some people do write a novel in a week, slam it through a spell checker and upload it, but I don't recommend that, and I don't think that's in the spirit of the Iron Age. The Iron Age was only dubbed a few months ago at the time of writing this article. Word has spread, people have to decide to commit. There will be enormous tides and phases of communication, coordination, and gathering together. Fantastic things can happen any day, and many great projects are already out there. But if it seems like the entire movement is resting on the shoulders of the Shad Brooks and the Eric Julys of the world, you might want to just hold on a bit longer. It's a marathon here, not a sprint. If you have it in you, step up and create. It only takes a year to finish a novel. And that is why today, as we're coming into September here, is why I'm revisiting this. It's been about a year. And so, honestly, I don't know of anyone except one person who I should probably get his link. I'll try and get that in the description. But I don't know of anybody that actually responded to the inception of the Iron Age movement and has since gotten a book to market. I think there are a few coming in a couple months. So, either this is entirely being driven by people who already know what they're doing and already had a creation process in flow and they're coming together and putting things out, or I'm underestimating how much time it takes, or something, or maybe the simple fact is that most people, when they set out to create a book, they don't work on it every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. So, when I first put this out, a lot of people said, oh, that's ridiculous. You can get that down a lot. And honestly, not one of them said, you are spending too much time on X. They just hear the number of it takes 1 year to go from idea to product for sale, and they go, oh, that's ridiculous. You can do that faster. But if you paid attention there, everything was mathed out and justified. If you want to write a 60,000 word novel, which is a short novel for the record, my latest book, Gamma Coin, this length here is about 90,000 words. It's one of my bigger books. If you write 2,000 words a day to get 60,000 words, that's 30 days of work. Assuming you don't miss a day, you don't have to rewrite anything. So I don't think you can skip that. I think it's missing the point if you say don't work on a different project at the same rate. So I don't know where people are thinking the time comes down. Do you just not edit? Do you not use beta readers? Do you not use editors? Do you not set up pre-orders and marketing? Do you just skip the proof copy? No one ever actually said that. So I'm sticking to my guns. I'm reiterating. If you have a great idea for a story, it will literally basically take 1 year from having that great idea to it being for sale if you work hard at it. You can be a crazy person and just focus on one project at a time and take a bunch of Adderall or something to get your word count up to like 5,000 a day, and maybe that goes faster. I think you'd be taking a risk on quality, but that's always depends on the artist. The fact of the matter is, a really good illustrator does not need as much time to make a good illustration as an amateur does. So, everyone has to find their own way. I stand by my estimates here. If someone has an improvement to this math, feel free to comment below. But I want to see the new content. I want to see who is coming into the market. I want to see young creators, too. That's another thing that's been bothering me. The independent author scene seems heavily dominated by people in their 40s or older, particularly retirees. Now, that, of course, skews more towards people trying to get agents, and they're like, oh, I finally retired, I have the time, I'm pursuing my childhood dream. And you know what? They're often a lot better because they've had a lot of practice that they haven't pursued seriously. They have a lot of life to draw on. They've read a lot more, because when you're 60, that's 30 additional years of reading and study compared to someone who's 30. And it's not even like you seriously studied probably before you were 15. So a 60-year-old has way more knowledge in their head. But I'm looking for the young creators right now. I think that is fundamentally where the best products are eventually going to come out of, is people who started very young and took it seriously and find early, at least moderate success, so they can build and push to bigger stakes, bigger ambitions, which you can't just do if you're in your first year of writing. Like, you shouldn't do something like, oh, I'm going to write an entire story in verse, in free verse, talking about the Garden of Eden or something. Like, you need a lot of practice before you do something like that, or you're a savant. But until then, please drop a like, drop a subscribe, tune in more for book reviews and short stories and the usual stuff. Buy my book.